There's some important information coming out of Athens, Tennessee, where there had been a church fire. Somebody was found dead inside, but it turns out that person was actually murdered, and then the church was burned in order to hide the murder. Now, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, we talk about everything church security here. But even if you're not a Christian, you'll find value here because we talk everything about personal safety, things that you can do to make yourself safer, make your home safer, just make your life in general safe all around. And in the process, if you want to know more about Christ, you can hit the comments, and I'm sure there's a ton of people there that are going to help you out, including myself. So let's go ahead and let's break down what just happened in Tennessee. All right, so an Athens man was arrested and charged in the ongoing investigation into a homicide and a fire at a church in Athens earlier in the month. Now, TBI, which is Tennessee Bureau of Investigation Special Agents, began a case on August 15th into the fire at St. Mark AME Zion Church in the 700 block of North Jackson Street. Now, during the initial investigation, authorities found the body of Linda Buchanan, 69, inside the church. An autopsy subsequently revealed she died prior to the fire. Now, further investigative efforts and evidence collected by TBI special agents with the assistance of the Athens Police Department led to Kyle Hickox, 36, as the person responsible for Miss Buchanan's death in the fire at the church, according to the TBI. Now, on Friday, agents charged Hickox with one count of second-degree murder and subsequently booked into the McMinn County Jail on a $600,000 bond. Additional charges may result as the investigation continues. Now, with every single case that we bring to you just like this, we like to talk about what you can do to protect your church and yourself from incidents just like this. Now, it's important to note that arson like this is a common tactic to cover up murder. Now, I just did a speech down at Jack Hibbs's church in Chino Hills, California, where I talked about the majority of crimes occurring at churches were vandalism, number one, along with property crimes like burglary and such. But the number two was arson. Now, whenever you have a death inside of a church that caught on fire, more than likely that's going to become a murder because most people escape fire. Especially in a church where people aren't asleep. Well, at least hopefully you're not. Maybe if your pastor isn't engaging enough, you might be asleep, but people will wake you up to let you know there's a fire, and people can usually escape and get out. So just a heads up on that. Now, some preventative measures to keep this from happening to you. People to learn more about situational awareness, and we're going to talk about specific things you can do here in a second. But it shouldn't just be the safety team that is taught situational awareness. It should be everybody in your congregation just so that they can be safer. Why? Because you're a Christian and the Bible says that you're going to be persecuted. And so knowing that, we should have better situational awareness so that we can avoid danger. So this is something that should be taught to every single person. Now, the biggest thing that you can do is be mindful and engage all of your senses. You should be attentive to all your surroundings, utilize all your senses, and pick up on any details that are around you. Now, this doesn't mean that you're super paranoid. This just might mean noting the scent of smoke that could indicate that there's fire, or breaking glass, that somebody's breaking in, and you should start getting ready. You should start finding your exits and getting ready to leave. And you'd be amazed. I know that sounds simple, but I've dealt with so many crime victims, thousands of crime victims over my 30-year career as a cop. And so many times I was like, as the victim is, if they lived, explaining to me what occurred, and you're constantly like, at that point you should have left. At that point you should have left. And it just keeps going and going and going. So whenever you enter any kind of a structure, you should immediately identify all the potential exits. Now, that's just not the exits that are visible to you. You can like enter a restaurant and see the waiters entering and exiting the kitchen. You should know there's a back door somewhere there. So if an exit is blocked at the front of the restaurant, you know you can work your way to the kitchen, continue on through the back and out the back door. Now, when I gave that speech this weekend at the Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, I mentioned to everybody that I look at all these active shooter incidents over decades. And one thing that I noticed is that everybody gets on the ground. A majority of people do. Why? Because TV and movies have taught us to get on the ground, and that might not necessarily be the smartest thing to do.
Get on the ground! On the ground!
The smartest thing to do in an active shooter event would actually be to stay low, run from cover to an exit where the suspect is not. So identify those potential exits. Now, before we continue, I want to take a moment before we keep talking about some of the other things that you're going to do. I want to talk about ChristianWarriorTraining.com. I offer free training to everybody. It is my gift to you as a fellow follower of Christ. I just want our churches to be safer. So head on over to christianwarriortraining.com, go to the training tab, and I have tons of training classes for you. They are all free. They are broken down Barney style, super easy for you to understand. I also have a newsletter over there where I talk about all things crime and safety at churches. How I fund all of this is through paid subscriptions over there. If you can't afford it, then don't pay. It's still going to be free for you. But if you want to support the ministry and then what I'm doing here, go ahead and do a paid subscription. It goes a long way. But again, you don't have to. It will always be free. God will provide for this ministry to get information to you guys. So I'm not stressed about it, but I just want to give you a heads up about that. All right. You need to observe people discreetly, right? So you want to pay attention to their behaviors and their actions of people around you without making it obvious. When I first started as a cop, I wasn't good at situational awareness. I had been in the Army, but they didn't really they only talked about situational awareness in combat, not like in the regular environment. And when I was a rookie, I was like, man, that guy looks crazy. Why is he acting crazy? And I go contact him and find out that they were involved in some kind of a crime. And then I became very good. Now, a good book to read is Left of Bang, put out by the Marine Corps, that helps people understand to recognize some of these things that we're talking about. I would put that at the top of your reading list for the next book that you're going to read. You want to recognize nonverbal cues. Now, I just did an article on pre-attack indicators, things that people do before they attack you. This is what we're talking about. People give off body language or facial expressions. They're going to tell you a lot about their intentions towards you. When you see that, back out. As an example, you're a 69-year-old woman. You see a pre-attack indicator because you read my article over at Christian Warrior Training, which is free, and you see those pre-attack indicators. You know to move. Move as fast as your 69-year-old body will take you and get out of that area. I like these personal alarms where you pull a string and it is a super loud shrieking sound that hurts your ears. Perfect. I love it. You pull that string, that thing goes off. You could hook it up to doors as a personal alarm. They're wonderful. So recognize those nonverbal cues and get ready to protect yourself. You want to limit your distractions. Now, look, my friend over at Survival Dispatch News, Chris Heaven, has a great term for your cell phone, which I would show you, but I'm using it right now. Uh, he holds up his phone and calls it a WMD, a weapon of mass distraction. Your phone is horrible. Get your face out of your phone. Okay. You want to adopt a strategic mindset too, right? So walk with confidence. Now, look, my kids grew up in the San Francisco East Bay, which includes the city of Oakland, which is probably one of the worst cities in America. We would often tell our kids when we were in San Francisco or some other city that was less desirable, and we would tell them, put your Oakland face on. And they knew what that meant. It meant not to look like a victim. If you don't look like a victim, then nobody's going to rob you, right? You want to look and walk with confidence, right? And it includes making eye contact with bad people, acknowledging them, and then move on. And I did a great article earlier on what to do with somebody that looks like they're going to be aggressive towards you, and it included making eye contact, giving them a nod, and then moving on to let them know, I see you. Keep moving. All right, next up, we're going to talk about security systems. Every single week in my newsletter, I tell you to get a burglar alarm and a fire alarm. Now, look, in this instance, you're going to have a burglar alarm that's going to go off first. The police are going to get it. They might send somebody right away, but if they're busy, it's going to go to the bottom of the queue. And the officers are going to handle like family fights or whatever, robberies, whatever's up. Okay. But if after that, at the same address, you get a fire alarm, then the dispatcher knows somebody just broke in and started a fire. That ups it up to the very top. And then now you're going to get a whole bunch of people really fast. Now, Athens, I would think that they would send somebody pretty quick. It's not the crime capital of the world. You should also have a distress code on your alarm pad. Your alarm company can set this up. And essentially what it is if you are forced to open the business or the church and they say, you got a gun pointed at you and they're like, open it up, turn the alarm off. Instead of like 0406 is your alarm code, it could be 0911. And you put in 0911 and everybody can have their own individual and it resets the alarm, makes it look like it's off, but it now sends a robbery alarm, which is different. That means somebody's holding a gun on you and it sends it to the alarm system. That now the priority now comes up. That is now a call that's red light and siren for the local police department. They won't roll up with the siren on, but you get the idea. And somebody will get there quick and they will handle it as necessary. So those distress codes are super important. Another one is to have surveillance connected to your alarm. I keep saying every week you need a 4K video system, and I know some churches can't afford it. I understand it. Just make it your goal to do it at some point. If you go to your church and you have money, and you see that these things aren't available, then pay for it for the church. Just consider that as part of your tithing, right? So surveillance tied in, a 4K video system tied in with a burglar alarm. So when the alarm goes off, it alerts you at home, like certain people at home, and you can pull up on your phone and look immediately and see what's going on. And you see, oh man, Miss Mabel has got somebody pointing a gun at him, and the guy's got a gas can. Well, now you know to rally the troops, call the police, and start heading over there to go save Miss Mabel. So you want those advanced security measures like access control systems. And I know some churches can't afford it. I understand. Put it on your list of things to do because some churches, they really talk down security because it's not welcoming and it doesn't bring butts into seats at the churches. I understand that. Safety comes last because they want to keep everything open so people come in. Your church can still be open and still put butts in seats and still be safe. It's a different world today than it was 10 years ago. Things have changed. You need to wake up to that. And again, the Bible says we're going to be persecuted, so we should be ready. Your church should be wide open for people to come in and worship Christ. I have done tons of videos, tons of newsletters on how you can do that without getting burned down, robbed, shot, you name it, right? I've done all these things, including situational awareness. Security teams, I know you send me letters every day or emails every day that say, but we should do bag searches. We should do metal detectors. We should lock the doors and allow one person at a time. No, no, and no. You just have to work harder. You have to work harder than everybody else so your church is open, people can come in, but you need these burglar alarms for when you're gone. When you're gone, people are going to want to damage your church and burn it down. Why? Because the devil is amongst or is all over the place, right? So we need you to have a burglar fire alarm 4K video system for when you're not there, but when you are there, have it unlocked, have your doors monitored by somebody from the safety team, and they look like a greeter and they say hi, come on in, welcome. And then when they see those pre-attack indicators, they see those things that we talk about in situational awareness, that they can take action immediately and stop it before it happens. Okay. You just have to work harder. So access control systems like those card readers work great. Okay. Security patrols. I know you guys can't afford a security patrol, but let me give an example of my church. My church is on a state highway passed by tens of thousands of people a day. How many of our church members pass that church every day? They just need to look over and as they pass, observe the church, or if they feel like it, drive in, circle around it to make sure nobody's there, nobody's broken in, and then drive away. That's your security patrol. It's us as volunteers securing the church. You just have to remind people, do you mind taking a look at our church as you drive by to make sure nobody's doing anything bad and keep an eye on our church? Easy peasy. You need strategic lighting. This is another thing. Lighting is really undervalued in churches. You need to have lighting all around your church, especially in parking lots, and something illuminating all the entrances, including potential hiding spots. Shrubs, trees should be trimmed 6 feet and up, meaning from 6 feet and down, there shouldn't be anything below the tree. Average person is 6 feet. That way they can't hide behind a big bushy tree. Bushes should be trimmed low so that people can't really hide behind them. And then those areas should be lit up with lights. So that way, as we're driving by at night, we can see that. Also, criminals see that there's no darkness. Remember, the Bible talks about light and darkness. And in this case, the darkness is truly evil where people can hide and hurt you. We want to bring light to that so that they can be exposed. You need to harden your entry points, reinforce doors and windows to make unauthorized entry very difficult. You want to use security film on windows to prevent shattering and install high quality deadbolt locks on all doors. If you have a church that is like a home with decorative screws and the striker plates and the deadbolts, take those out and put in 2.5-inch screws that go all the way in and then grab on to the framing and pull that in so that way it's harder to boot. I've kicked in hundreds of doors as a narcotics detective. I can tell you drug dealers do the best at hardening and they do slow us down significantly. But right next to that hardened door is a window with no bars, no nothing. And we literally just throw something through the window and climb through that. It works out great. So look around after you harden that door. Now look at the windows and think, what do I need to do to kind of harden that up? You want to do emergency action drills? Like just look at what you would do if there was an arson. If we did receive a call, there was a distress call and we looked on the video and we saw it was somebody held up at gunpoint inside the church. Obviously, you're going to call the police, but I often talk about you need to train as if nobody is coming because law enforcement has been totally degraded since 2020. We, including myself, have all left, retired if they could, quit and went on to different industries. There are less cops today. No matter what your police department tells you, a lot of them are lying to you, saying that they're fully manned. Go talk to the street cop. They'll tell you the truth. Don't talk to a command staff person. And then find out where your staffing is at. I know one of my churches, because we have satellites all over the place, response time for one is 9.5 minutes. That's what they're publicly stating. That's not what it really is. I have talked to deputies and it is much longer than that. You want to do surveillance and intelligence gathering, so have that layered surveillance that, inside the church, outside the church. Consider real-time monitoring that like you can open up your phone and look at the cameras inside and outside of the church. You want to have some kind of a threat assessment team, and that's a team dedicated at looking just at threats within the church. Now, they can regularly evaluate potential threats based on local crime trends, congregational concerns, or any other suspicious activities that are reported. And you also want some incident reporting system to where congregation members can send in information to the safety team, like Joe's kid is showing signs of being an active shooter or whatever, and they can put in whatever safety concern, the light is out in parking lot E or whatever. And the safety team can get on that, look at it immediately, and prioritize fixes, contacts, calling the police, whatever. A lot of people are afraid to call the police, but they don't mind contacting their church safety team. And then the safety team can be that buffer on when they call the police. You want to do arson prevention tactics, obviously, right? You want to look at securing flammable materials in locked areas. And you'd be amazed, there will be a gas can right next to the lawn maintenance shed, but it's laying outside because somebody forgot to put it away. Well, some transient's going to pick it up, throw it on the church, and light it on fire. You just gave them what they needed. So you want to install fire-resistant barriers around vulnerable points of the building and ensure that all utility access points like gas lines and electrical panels are secured and monitored. The most important thing on this list, you want to make sure you have a safety ministry, both medical and security, with trained people like me that can advise you on what you need to do to make things safer. Now, you want to do some psychological deterrence, and that includes like visible security measures. Obviously, cameras are one, but signs that say that around the church saying that it's under surveillance and has 24-hour response time from safety professional or security professionals is super important. That stuff actually works. Now, I'm doing this video in the memory of Linda Buchanan, who died at that church. It is my hope that churches watch this video, see what I've talked about, implement security measures, and I'm hoping that it saves somebody's life somewhere down the road. This is why I'm doing everything for free. So to Linda's family, if you're watching, I will be praying for you. I know my followers will be praying for you as well. To the church that was burned down, that St. Mark AME Zion. If I get more information on any kind of a GoFundMe or anything else to donate to the church, I'll be putting that up on my social media, and I'll be putting it up on the community tab here on Christian Warrior Training on YouTube. So please put on your prayer list the church and Linda Buchanan's family. And remember, besides praying constantly and unceasingly, the other thing you can do to make yourself safe is to remember your ABCs. Always be caring.